What is up, everybody? Hopefully you enjoyed that little bit cinematic intro. It's 2018, it's a new year, and we're going to try and bring a new level of content to the channel. So let me know what you thought of that opening in the comments down below. Today, we're taking a look at the Nifty 50 for $50. Now, it's no big secret that the 50mm f1.8 made by Canon is one of the best budget lenses on the market. For a little over $100, you're getting really incredible results. That's why most photographers refer to it as the Nifty 50. But if you're like me, spending $100 on a lens is still a good chunk of change. So today, we're taking a look at the YONGNUO 50mm f1.8 lens. This is a 50mm lens, f1.8, just like the Canon version, but it only costs $50. Hence, a Nifty 50 for $50. Now, while $50 isn't exactly pocket change, it's significantly cheaper than pretty much any other decent lens you're going to get on the market. So, I'm just going to tell you some of the things I like, some of the things I don't like, and you can discern if this lens is right for you. Now, one thing to note is this is a prime lens. So what that means is it's 50mm. That's it. There's no zooming in and out, you can't just go neat neat and zoom in, fix your composition and take a photo. If you want to zoom in, you have to manually, move your feet with your camera, move around and find the shot. And while some people might find this annoying, I find that really does help your composition a little more. Instead of just, adjusting your zoom, taking a shot and moving on, you have to actually get closer or further away from your subject and really think about where you're taking that photo from. And I think that's kind of a cool feature. I think it's really good for learning on and just, helping work on that composition, which is really important for new photographers. An example of that is the other day I was walking downtown and I saw this really cool rainbow background and I was like, okay, what can I do with this? And I just kind of looked around for a subject and I was like, aha! And I saw this little green plant on the ground. Now, this plant was nothing special, but combined with that rainbow background, it made for a really cool shot. So when you're shooting around with this thing, don't be afraid to get a little bit dirty, get on the ground and make something interesting happen, work on your composition, and you can get some incredible results. Along with that, this thing has a f1.8 aperture. What that means is since it's a really small aperture number, the aperture gets really big, which lets tons of light in. This is really good for getting a really creamy, smooth, blurry background while keeping your subject in focus. It makes really low light shots easier because you're letting more light in so you don't get as much noise and get that grainy effect in your photos. Now, it's really important to not let these next photos sway you too much on this lens. I mean, I'm just one photographer and I happen to take some pictures. If you really like them, it doesn't mean all your pictures are going to look just like mine. If you really don't like them, hopefully you can do better than me. But I'm going to show you a few examples and hopefully you can kind of get a good idea of what this lens is good for. Now, due to the fact that this lens is 50mm and it has an f1.8 aperture, it makes it a really good lens for shooting portraits. Here's an example. So during Christmas time, I took a picture of my cat in front of the Christmas tree, and it made a really blurry background with lots of beautiful bokeh, and I think it looks really cool. If bokeh is your thing, you can get a really good bokeh effect with a cheap little lens like this. And while just shooting portraits of your subject is great, sometimes you might want to go out in the streets and do some street photography. And this lens can do a really good job at that, although keep in mind, it can't zoom. So, if you're shooting random people on the streets, you're going to have to physically get closer to them. And 50mm isn't a really long length, and that can come with some awkward experiences. But that's part of photography, and you can get some really cool shots. You're just going to have to be able to get a little close to your subjects. Now, if you're a professional photographer, this probably isn't the lens for you. Alright, this thing costs $50. It's made entirely out of plastic, and if you drop it, it probably wouldn't end well. I'm sure the Canon version at over double the price is just going to be a little bit better all around, and it's going to last a little bit longer. But that's also something that's really cool about this lens. I mean, take a look at this thing. It's made out of plastic, but that's why it's so cheap, it's so lightweight. You don't have to be afraid to do some risky things with this lens. If you spent like $1,000 on a lens, you gotta be careful with that. You don't want to be out a lot of money. But let's say you just, you just chuck this. I don't know why you go chucking a lens, but let's say you drop it, let's say you scratch it, you know, you're not out a whole lot of money. And if you treat it right, it should still last you for, you know, plenty of years. For the beginner, intermediate, or budget photographer, this is a great little lens. You can just throw it in your bag, you can take it out on shoots, you can work on your composition, and you get a lot of bang for your buck at only $50. Alright, the autofocus is definitely good enough for most things. Action sports, I've had a little bit of trouble with it, but that should be expected. It's a $50 lens, it's made out of plastic, but it still works really well. It's become one of my favorite lenses since I got into photography, and if you don't have a 50mm lens yet, definitely consider checking this one out. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, toss them in that comment section down below. And if you're like, hey, you know, this guy's content's kind of okay, drop a like and consider subscribing. It really helps and it lets me know what kind of videos you guys want to see more of. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.